guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, my name is Erica and I love the royal family, and so I thought it would be really fun in celebration of the new Duke and Duchess of Sussex to go through some British royal family inspired baby names. So I have quite the list. Let's jump right into it. So it wouldn't be a British royal family list if I didn't start out with the Queen herself, Elizabeth. So if you like the name Elizabeth, obviously a short nickname for Elizabeth is Liz, and if you like Liz, you might also like Lizette. I think Lizette is so pretty. There's something very exotic about it. And if you like Lizette and you like names that start with the letter L, you might also like Lydia. I love Lydia. I have an aunt named Lydia and I think it's the prettiest name. Now going with the E from Elizabeth, you may like Eliza. I really like Eliza. I like that there's an E-L-I in it, N-I-Z. I feel like it's very similar to Elizabeth, but like, again, maybe just a little more modern. Okay, this is personally one of my favorite names, and if you know me, you know why. Elsie. Elsie's the name of my cat, but I genuinely think that it is the cutest name, something very vintage, beautiful, delicate about it. If you like Elsie, you might also like Ellie. Ellie is a nickname that I actually use for Elsie quite often, but again, it's just such a pretty name. There's something very youthful about it. Another name that I think of sometimes when I hear Elizabeth is Amelia. Sort of like Amelia with an A, but with an E. I think that it's very pretty. It reminds me a lot of Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones. So when I think Amelia, Elizabeth, I also for some reason think Philomena. I think Philomena is a really beautiful name. It's actually a name that my husband had mentioned that he really liked for a daughter that we could potentially have. If you like Philomena, you might also like Philippa, Pippa for short, and obviously Pippa Middleton, who is Kate's, the Duchess of Cambridge's sister. So yeah, I really like Philippa. I really like Philomena. I think that they're both quite similar. And then again, if you like Philippa, you might really like Pippa as a short nickname. And then thinking of Pippa also always makes me think of Poppy. And I think Poppy is so cute. Such a cute little girl's name. Just such a fun, exuberant, lively name. Okay, now moving over to Little Miss Princess Charlotte. Charlotte in and of its own, I think, is such a gorgeous name, and it has been on like the most popular baby names list for years and years and years. But I think especially now with Princess Charlotte coming into her own and just being the most adorable little girl, it's becoming just such a popular name again. And a nickname for Charlotte that I think is really darling, really cute is Lottie, L-O-T-T-I-E. I think that that is just, again, such a fun, cute nickname, especially for a little girl. One of the things that I really love about the name Charlotte is the double T at the end of it. And if you like the double T in Charlotte and Lottie, you might also like the double T in Etta or Etta. I think Etta is such a pretty name. I think with my accent, it sounds a little bit weird, but I think that in and of itself, it's such a gorgeous name. Like Etta James, I think is so beautiful, the singer, and it's just such a cute little nickname. If you're big on the double consonants in names, I think that you might also really like Ella. I think Ella and Elle are such gorgeous, regal, royal names. When you think of a royal name, I don't know, maybe it's because of Cinderella. I always think Ella and Elle are just such gorgeous, feminine, delicate names. And if you like that double consonant, you like Ella, you like Elle, you might also like Emmy or M, both of which, again, I think are really stunning, gorgeous names. If you like the double consonant like L or Ellie or Ella, you might also like Emma or Anna. And then sort of taking me into the very last name that I think is so beautiful, Aurelia. There's something about Emma and Anna that sort of, to me at least, flows into Aurelia. And I think Aurelia is a really beautiful, there's something quite sing-songy about it too. And when I think of like a regal, gorgeous princess name, Aurelia definitely comes to mind. So now moving to Catherine, obviously the Duchess of Cambridge. If you like the name Catherine, it goes without saying that, you know, you probably like the name Kate. You could always opt for Kate, which is a nickname or short form of Catherine. I have a best friend named Caitlin, which you can also sort of derive from Catherine. If you like Caitlin, you might also like Katie, which is a fun short nickname for Caitlin that again can sort of be derived from Catherine. When I think Katie, a little bit more of like an exotic twist I think of is Katerina. I think Katerina is a, again, really exotic, pretty, sing-songy name that definitely evokes a royal spirit. You can spell Katerina with a K or a C, but when I think of Katerina, I think of it with a K, and that leads me into the next name, which is Kira. I think Kira is a beautiful name. It was on my like baby names I love but won't be using list because I think that it is, again, just such a pretty, there's something very princessy about it, something very delicate and pretty. If you like the name Kira with a K, you might like the name Kensington. I feel like this is kind of an obvious one when it comes to the British royal family, with a lot of the British royal members living at Kensington Palace. Kensington, I've heard, is a popular name in America, not so much in the UK, but Kensington is quite pretty and of course would evoke a very royal spirit. When I think of Catherine, I do think of Camilla. I think Camilla is a really pretty name. I also really like Cami, so if you didn't want to go for the full Camilla, you could always name your daughter Cami, and I think Cami is a very modern American twist on Camilla. And the last C name that I wanted to throw in there is Claire. I love the name Claire. Again, this is definitely pretty high up on my baby girl's name list, and I think again it's very regal, very pretty, and there's just something very, I don't know, old-timey about it, very classic, I guess, very antique, and something that will definitely stand the test of time. Okay, and now moving to the Duchess of Sussex, Miss Meghan Markle herself. So if you like the name Meghan, you might also like the name Mira or Mia. I really like the name Mia. I think that it's really pretty, really short and just like to the point, but also like very feminine. And if you like the name Mira and Mia, then you might also like the name Margaret. And now, of course, Princess Margaret was sister to Queen Elizabeth. I think Margaret is obviously a royal staple of a name, and if you like the name Margaret, you might also like the name Marjorie. I love the name Marjorie. When I think of Marjorie, I think of Game of Thrones, but there's just something that, it sounds like Margaret, but it's just a little bit different. It's different enough. And so if you've never been too keen on Margaret, or you like the name Margaret and you just want something a little bit different, Marjorie I think is a really, really great option. When I think of Margaret, I also think of Georgina for some reason. I don't know where the connection is there, but I think Georgina is such a pretty name, and of course it's the feminine of George, and little Prince George is obviously a member of the royal family. I love Georgina. Georgina or Georgia I think is really pretty as well. And then to cap off that list, I think Greta is a really pretty name. Greta is a little bit different, very short, feminine, but there is something a little bit stronger about the name Greta, which I think I really like too. Moving to boy names, Prince Charles, the next in line to the British throne. When I think of Charles, I immediately think of Philip. And I know that sort of like goes like right off the course there, but when I think of Prince Charles, I think of Prince Philip, who is married to Queen Elizabeth. And when I think of the name Philip, I also think of the classic names Peter, Paul, and Christopher. I think that those just being very classic names, they just sort of, I don't know, one evokes the other, evokes the other. And so if you like the name Charles, if you like the sense of royal prestige that comes with the name Charles, I would probably reckon that you might also like the names Philip, Peter, and Paul. When I think of Peter, I also think of Christopher, like I mentioned, and I think of Saint Christopher, and that also makes me think of Saint Jude. And I think Jude is a very sort of underutilized masculine name. There's something very masculine about it, but also something a little bit modern, and I think it's because it's not quite as popular a name, I think, as it deserves. And when I think of Jude, I also think of James, and I think James is a like perfect royal name, and I really love the sort of trend now for using like boy names for girls and girls names for boys, and just sort of totally blurring gender lines. And I think James is one of those perfect names that if maybe it's not something that fits in terms of like the boy that you're thinking, maybe it would fit for a little girl too. Now moving on to Prince William, I have a lot of W names here. When I think of the name William, I also think of the name Winston, sort of like Winston Churchill, figurehead in British history. I love the name Winston. I think again that it's different. It's definitely a bit of an old-fashioned name, but I think that a huge trend is bringing back some of those more old-fashioned names. And then when I think of Winston, I also think of Wyatt and Warner and Willis. So Wyatt, Warner, and Willis. I think of those three names. I really like Wyatt. Again, that double T, that double consonant, there's something really special about that. I think all three of those names are really great options if you are looking for a name similar to William. And then a nickname for William is Bill. And if you like the name Bill, then you might like the name Beckett. And there's definitely something, I don't know, I think of the name Beckett, I think of aristocrat, I think of high society, I think of royal. Perhaps it's the double consonant in there again, the two T's. But yeah, I think Beckett is a really great option if you are looking for a name that evokes that royal spirit. And now while I'm at it, I'm thinking of Preston as well. I don't know, there's something about Preston that also sounds a bit regal. So Beckett and I keep wanting to say Princeton. I guess Princeton's an option too. Now moving to George. Oh, I love little Prince George. I think he's so cute. If you like the name George, you might also like the name Jeffrey. My husband's name is Jeffrey, but with a J. I like the name Jeffrey with a G. I think that it's kind of cool. And if you like Jeffrey, you might like shortening it to Geo. There's something really cool about the name Geo. Again, I think of Game of Thrones, funny enough, Geo. But there's something really, I don't know, modern, very like downtown New York, but also still regal about the name Geo. I also really like the name Gerald with a G too. I think that you probably spell Gerald with a J as well, but I like Gerald with a G. When I think of the name George, sort of like the name Charles, a few other names come to mind that are like regal in nature, and those names are Theodore. I love Theodore. I think that it is such a cute name, and the nicknames are endless for Theodore. You get like Theo and Teddy, Ted. I just think all of them are so perfect if you are looking for a name that sounds regal. If you like the name Theodore, you might also like the name Thomas. Again, a very classic name. I also think of the names Leopold and Leonardo. Leopold is such a gorgeous English name. Again, very old-fashioned, not a very popular name, not one that you would hear a lot, especially in the United States. But Leopold, you can shorten it to Leo, as you can with Leonardo. I think Leonardo is definitely seeing a bit of a comeback this year, and I think that it is a very special name. Last but not least, of course, getting to the Duke of Sussex, Henry or Harry. Harry's birth name is actually Henry. A lot of people don't know that, but I think Henry is such a great name if you like the name Harry, but you're looking for something that is a little bit different. I love Henry. And then when I think of Henry, I also think of Hadrian. I mentioned this name in my Baby Names I Love But Won't Be Using video. I think Hadrian is just it's different, it's unique. There's a little bit of a twist to it versus Adrian, but I guess you could do either. I also have to mention, because we're on the whole H thing, my son's name, Hugo. I love the name Hugo. It is I want to say it's got its origins it's the Latin form of Hugh. I could be so wrong. I should probably know that, being that it's my son's name. But regardless, when I think of Henry, Harry, Hadrian, those H names, I think of Hugo. And I love the name Hugo. Hopefully you do too. And if you like the name Hugo, you might also like the name Vigo. Again, one of my favorites. The G in there is what sort of connects those two. And Vigo is definitely a bit of a different name, but it's got the double consonant, which I think is really cool, very European. And if you like the name Vigo, I'm going to go over now with some V names. You might like the name Vincent. Definitely a bit of like an aristocratic flair for the name Vincent. I really like the name Vincent. I think that it, again, is a very aristocratic name. There's something definitely royal about it. And last but not least, Victor. I really like the name Victor. I actually like spelling it with a K versus a C, but you could do either. I think spelling it with a K obviously throws in that bit of a modern twist there, if that's something that you enjoy. I think Victor, like Vincent, is a very royal sounding name. Okay guys, those are all of my British royal family inspired baby names. If you can think of any other British royal family inspired names, definitely leave them down in the comments below. I hope that you guys all really loved watching the royal wedding. I know I did, and I just wanted to really celebrate that. Don't forget to subscribe to join our little family and to hit that notification bell right next to the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you all really soon. Bye guys!